All right. Well, I want to welcome the community and all those viewers and those who will see us later on YouTube following it. Welcome to the meeting. This is the last regularly scheduled board meeting of this calendar year. We have established a quorum. We have been in executive session. Nothing was decided. So we are reconvening and without any actions in executive session. The first matter that requires action is ratify approval of our minutes of our last meeting, September 19th. Do I have a motion? So second. Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. And these, of course, have been circulated a long time ago. I will make a few remarks in doing this. I hope everybody is enjoying the absolutely fine weather and the easing of the traffic conditions that presently exist. This is the times when, you know, we look forward to, those of us who are here on a full-time basis and those who come during this part of the year. It's a very, very nice time, and it's the time of the year here. People, as I walk around, say this truly is paradise. One of our major issues we have is the Sea Pines traffic circle and Greenwood Drive and the traffic along Pope Avenue and all the arteries in and out and away from the Sea Pines Circle. You've heard previously that we've established a task force, and that task force is going to be a major continuing organization that's going to address this. And then a little later in the meeting, you will hear the co-chair of that task force give you some information. For your purpose of contacting the task force with anything you want to contact them, we have set up a division on the Sea Pines Living website where you can access the task force. Now, right now, there's not much on there because it just got set up yesterday and this morning. But there will be reports that will be placed on that periodically as becomes necessary and appropriate to keep you informed. There will be something that I'm going to ask you to do, and this is where you would sign up. A number of you want to help, and there's one special way you can help. We all know that this process on traffic is going to go through some governmental agencies, and our immediate level is going to be with the town. That doesn't mean we're not going to be dealing with the county or the state, but the initial focus is with the town. The town has a study, which many of you have seen. But as we decided, the study is not just at the end of it. We need action. It doesn't need to sit somewhere, and it may not be the best plan. So you're going to hear the task force report. We're going to discuss some other ways we're going to do that. But one thing that's going to be important, and we can use every property owner who's willing. We can use you to come to speak at all public meetings of the town council and any other appropriate committee meetings that are addressing traffic. We are in the political process. CSA can go with as a representative, but we are an organization. And it is just very interesting phenomena for those of you who have been in the political world and know that when the citizenry goes before the board repeatedly, constantly, the board tends to act as those are the voters. So we need to help people redirect their criticism of CSA for not preventing this from happening to they need to be a part of it. CSA is an organization and we can't do it by ourselves. So if you're interested, come join us, come be a part of it. And you will be given some ways, things to say. You will be told how to sign up for those of you who've not signed up before. And we need to make this an issue, and you need to be part of the problem. So I really hope that, you know, you do this. And by completing and by having this contact form directly to the task force, it doesn't come to my email or somebody else, Sam's email, somebody else's, and we forward it, and it takes extra time. It'll go directly to them, and any of your comments are going to be appreciated. So I just want you to know that this will be a very constructive and positive way that you can help us. And we all want these improved traffic conditions. So let's at least start on it, but don't expect to find anything on the website for a little bit of time. Give us a few days to really populate it with some information, but you can start signing up now and making known that you are willing to participate. On another matter, there are 3 positions open for the board. There are 4 candidates running. Please vote. We have another couple of weeks before the voting is closed. So, you know, be active in who you select. And then it's, if you don't vote, if you don't vote and I knew you voted, I wouldn't listen to your criticism, because I think voters are entitled to criticize. But so, as many of you know, there's a pending federal litigation on the last assessment referendum. And as it came public about a week ago, that case is set for oral argument on between January 24 and January 26 in Richmond, Virginia. And how long after that we have a decision, I do not know. I do feel something, and I want to pass this on in case you feel it. I make a habit going among and many people personally as I can, and asking them how things are going, or when they ask me what things are going, what do you feel? I don't find that level of angst in our community that at the present time, there's some kind of little respite we're going through, a calmness, and I think a number of people sense that. Even some are coming to me and telling me that things are not perfect. I'm not saying it's because it's perfect. And people that still have different opinions on different things. But it just seems that the warring factions are a little bit calmer now and a little less frequent, etc. So these times happen, and so I hope we can keep it there, because there are some very constructive things that we will continue going down the path on, and we're going to need your support. And we want to give you information and intend to continue to give you information on things that we're doing before you ask for it. Now, we're not going to tell you everything. It just, you're not, I'm not going to open the bedroom door. You know, we're going to tell you what we believe is relevant, and as much of it can. We're going to tell you how we are spending money on our critical infrastructure project. You see it in the newsletters. You see what's going on. Every weekly newsletter has some photographs and status reports of what's going on. If you read those, you'll get a lot of information. I know that gets boring because it is a lot, but if you could take 15 minutes and go through that, you will find a lot of information that answers a lot of questions. And it's always interesting to me that people will ask me a question about something that's been in that newsletter 2 or 3 times. And then they get mad at me because I don't respond. And, you know, I made up my decision a long time ago. I'm not going to respond to everybody that doesn't read, because I'm not going to read it for them and give it to them. And I know that's impolite, and I wouldn't raise that way, but the efficiency, if you take this job and you answered every email that came to you and gave everybody every bit of information they wanted, and then you, instead of them going to the websites and getting it, that would be no time left in the day. So I'm urging you to please go to our various websites and newsletters, and you will find most of what you're asking about. And if you truly don't find it, you contact us, and then we'll either get the information for you, or we'll post it so it'll be posted again and show you where it's posted. So we want to make things good for you. We want to make things happy for you. We're coming into what should be a joyous time of the year, besides the weather being good and the holidays and families getting together and things of that nature. So I hope this spirit continues and spread throughout the whole community. You are wonderful to work with. And I'm talking both in this case to the board and to our population. We have an extremely intelligent, interested population. And I do read everything that's sent to me, and I do get important gems of information from that. So I don't want to discourage you from writing, because there are many of you, and maybe all of you, smarter than I am, and I need your input. So please continue doing that. And I like it particularly if it's in a civil manner. And it makes it a lot easier for me to read. I'll even read the aggressive ones, but I like them when somebody's talking civilly. So that's enough for me. We have a few things on the agenda that we need to go to, and I at this stage are going to move to the next point, and we have President's remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Ellis. I want to say happy holidays, everybody coming into the season. It's a beautiful time to be in Sea Pines, and you're going to hear a lot from our directors about what we've done over the past year and what we're looking forward to doing moving into 2024. We've got the 2024 budget to be adopted in this as part of today's meetings, and there's a lot of good things coming, a lot of additional work and resources the community is providing so that we can continue to improve Sea Pines and take care of the place we all love. Before we get into the director's report, so I do want to point out we've had a change in our leadership team. Many of you know Amanda Jones. Amanda has been with Sea Pines for 8+ years. I've had the pleasure of working with Amanda for 3.5 years. Amanda started right after Brett Martin took over, and then I've been here 3.5 years, and she's been a pleasure to work with. Amanda has been driving from Beaufort daily to CSA's operations for the last 8 years, and her drive has turned into some days 3.5 to 4 hours of driving. So Amanda and I have talked, and she's going to be working for CSA as a consultant. She's starting her own consulting firm called Canton Consulting. And she's also going to be doing some things for other folks as part of that. She's going to take her talents and help other communities do the things she's done so very, very well for us. We hate to lose Amanda as a full-time employee. She's been a truly an inspiration to all of us, and has helped our whole senior management team, and it's been great for the community. But we're also happy for her that she's going to be doing something else that she wants to do. They'll give her more time with her family, and will allow her to also expand what she does as a professional. And she is truly a consummate professional, and I'm very grateful for that. So I want to congratulate Amanda. I want to thank Amanda. I know she's watching. We look forward to continuing working with her over the course of the next year. And then you will still see her feel and flavor on our communications for a while. She's done a great job with me for the last 3.5 years of bringing communications to a place that David mentioned earlier. We're getting a lot of information out to the community. As part of that transition, Amanda's had Stephanie Farrow, who's worked for her for the almost 3.5 years as well. Stephanie came on a couple weeks after I did. Stephanie will be stepping into the day-to-day communications role for CSA as an employee. Her current title is communications coordinator. I'm sure as I work through this process with Stephanie and with the support of Amanda and the rest of the senior leadership team, that role will change. But from here on out, you'll be seeing Stephanie being the face of CSA communications. We're excited about that, and look forward to what the future holds for Stephanie as well as Amanda. And so if you see Amanda, run into her, please congratulate her. This is it's a very big deal. It's a good move for her. It's not CSA's loss because she's still going to be sticking around helping us, but it will be other communities, certainly their gain, and other organizations where they look at taking Amanda's services on. So just wanted to say that up front, David. Thanks for letting me do that. And then from here on, we've got our management reports, and I'll turn it over
Well, before we go into the first one,
Sure.
I want to turn over to Steve Birdwell to report on the referendum that the resort conducted for the asphalt.
Muted. Okay, thanks, Dave. Yes, as the community knows and as the board knows, we've been conducting a referendum which would change or does change the 1974 covenants to allow electronic voting and electronic communications. And I'm pleased to report that the referendum has passed with an overwhelming positive vote of almost 95% voting in favor of the proposal. So we should thank and recognize CPON's POA for initiating this proposal and successfully conducting a petition drive back in the spring and early summer. I believe this is the first time that the petition method has been used to conduct a referendum. So we'll approve the referendum, and we will intend to file the Sixth Amendment document here shortly.
Thank you.
David?
Any questions, Jim?
Yeah, Steve, kudos to you too. You compliment the POA, but this was the first time I think that you took under that very complicated role of administering the referendum, and it looks like you just did an expert job at it, and thank you.
I appreciate that. This was non-controversial for the most part, I think. So we didn't have too many comments about this one.
Okay. If no other questions, then we'll move to the next thing on the infrastructure. Is Russell there, Russell?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the time this morning. Just wanted to provide a brief update on our capital projects or infrastructure work around the community. As many of the announcements, as everyone has read, we're currently working on Sea Pines Drive from Baynard Cove Road to Gadwell and on to Land's End in the coming months. So I just want to take a moment to thank all the property owners who are directly impacted by this construction activity, and thank them for their patience and understanding. As many of you may have experienced some traffic delays, as well as some other roadway and leisure trail closures in the area. We are expecting work to ramp up here with additional resources and crews working along the road over the coming weeks and months. As we approach the holidays and thereafter, we do not expect any significant roadway work at this time that will, or milling operations that will change that. But do expect traffic control and all those things that you have been seeing. But again, that project's well underway with stormwater work in that area. We're installing approximately 1.5 miles of stormwater pipe, so our contractors are quite busy. Just to give a quick recap of recently completed work, we have been working on the Greenwood Drive leisure trail outside the gate from the Welcome Center to Publix, and that was recently completed. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, please do. We've also been working on the Heritage Woods. We had recently completed some tree work and working to schedule the leisure trail construction. Additionally, I just want to mention South Island Public Service has been working along Plantation Drive with the new water main installation from the Baynard Ruins all the way up to Greenwood Drive. They're getting ready to stage the next sections of work in trolley lots 3 and 4 over the coming weeks and months ahead. So those crews have been quite busy. A couple other things just to mention here this morning. Our biannual flower change out is in progress. Did see a lot of property owners come up to lot 1 and pick up some of those flowers to put around their home and so forth. So, and that should be completed later this week. And our annual holiday lighting will be scheduled in the coming days and weeks ahead as the holidays are approaching. And on that note, just want to wish everyone a happy, safe, and holiday season ahead. And thank you this morning. And those conclude my comments. So we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Russell. Any questions from the board? Anyone? Okay, well, thank you very much. Next one is going to be maintenance and standards. Jared?
Hey, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. I know we have a lot to cover, so I'll keep it quick. Just want to go over some of the maintenance division updates since the last meeting. For tree care, we started trimming over leisure trails on Greenwood Drive, and we also started on some main road trimming. The crews are currently on Lighthouse Road right now. Then throughout the rest of the year, we're gonna be working on main road and leisure trail trimming, and just keep an eye out on the emails to see where we'll be working. Our debris recycling staff is going to be filling in debris locations with dirt throughout the rest of the year as well. We like to take advantage of the slower time when there's less vegetation growing to kind of get caught up on those. We've been super busy with our roadside division. We've done a lot of roadway and leisure trail asphalt repairs in multiple locations, and we are going to have those continuing throughout the year as well. As you mentioned, this is kind of the best time of year to do it when traffic slows down a little bit and it's a little bit cooler out. I believe it was last week or the week before we did some updated thermo line striping on Lighthouse Road in the Harbor Town area. Really helps keep the visibility for those crosswalks and things like that. And actually starting next week, we're gonna have staff doing some roadside mulching just to freshen up some of the beds on the sides of the roads. For stormwater maintenance and repairs, we've been doing a lot of pipe and catch basin cleaning. We did a good bit down in the Harbor Town area, like Mizmash, Genoa, Windjammer. We did some roads off of Plantation, Twin Pines, Calabogie K, Hearthwood, Spartina area. We've also been doing some ditch repair. We did some, excuse me, on Governor's Road, and then our crews are currently working in the Heritage Court area. If there's no questions on the maintenance, I'll go into the community standards updates. Okay. So just a brief update on some of the numbers. Year to date in 2022, we issued 460 violations by this time. So far in 23, we have issued 1,454 violations. To date, about 79% of those have been closed. And of the 1,454 violations, there was only 103 that were second notices, resulting in about 93% of owners coming into compliance with allotted time of their first notice, which I think is huge. Instead of getting pushback or negativity, a lot of people are just, oh, hey, thank you for letting us know. We didn't notice that. And they're getting these things taken care of in a brief manner. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to take any additional questions.
Larry, you have a question?
Just one, is the number that's grown, appears to grow dramatically in part due to the fact that we have a second land use manager out there looking, or is it just that we have more people out of compliance? Can you tell, Jared?
I think it's more that we have an additional resource in the department. We have a schedule where they're going out and doing not investigations, inspections. And so we're doing inspections on a proactive basis, and we're out taking a look at things. And as I mentioned before, we're getting down beach walks and backs of homes. We have equipment that we can use so we can see these areas more efficiently. So we're definitely getting a lot more eyes on the community.
It is good to hear that people are complying. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I think, Jim, you have your hand up? Did anybody else have a hand up? Okay. Well, no other questions. We'll move into the next. We've got Stephanie, Communications.
Hi, thank you, David, and good morning, board members. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I am Stephanie Farah, and as Sam stated, I've been the communications coordinator for the past 3.5 years. I have just a few reminders and comments from the communications department to share. As David stated, Board of Director elections are in progress. Voting is open. We have 3 Class A residential board seats and 1 Class B commercial director board seat that will become available on January 1st, 2024. Class A residential board candidates are Stephen Fricker, Jim Caskey, Lee Stevens, and Andrea Tarbucks. The Class B commercial board candidate is Don Sigmund. If you haven't already, please be sure to submit your ballots by 11:59 p.m. on December 1st. All election and candidate information is posted on our website at cpinesliving.com/elections. We are currently accepting Seapine CSA committee member applications. Those are available on our website as well at seapinesliving.com/committee application and should be returned to the Seapine CSA office by December 1st. We do have 2 donation events coming up in December. On December 8th, Deep Well will be at the Seapines Community Center parking lot to collect food and pantry donation items from 9 to 11 a.m. And on December 19th, the Red Cross will be hosting a blood drive at the Seapines Community Center from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. More information on these 2 events can be found on our website at seapinesliving.com/events. And finally, all of these reminders and more updates from Seapine CSA are included in our weekly community emails. If we don't have your current email address on file, please email us at info@csaseapines.com. Or you can give us a call at 843-671-1343. We also post community updates and alerts to our Facebook page, and you can follow us there at facebook.com/seapinesliving. That concludes my update. Happy to take any questions you all may have.
Thank you. Anybody have questions, comments? Well, very, very good. Nice report. Glad to have you here doing that now. All right, Finance and Administration, Victoria.
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, as you will see in a few minutes, that we have been very busy working on the 2024 budget. This is something that takes months and months and a lot of time and effort by everybody involved. So thank you to everyone, all my staff and all the board members and Sam for all their efforts in putting this 2024 budget together. Upon approval of the budget, staff has been working really hard, and we anticipate that the assessment notices will go out probably the week of Thanksgiving. So that gives the property owners a lot more time to remit those payments, and they will be due on January 12th, 2024. Talking about collections, I know I get asked a lot of questions about the collection. Right now, there is about outstanding balance of about 360,000. 253 of that is attributable to the rental registration program, and that represents about 415 properties. Again, we don't know whether this is just non-payment or maybe people are not renting their homes and we still have them on the program and we need to update our records. So we're moving through that. This is our first year of this, so we're learning as we go. And so obviously the balance of that of approximately 110 is assessment balances. That's significantly higher than it has been in the past. Normally around this time of year, it's about 50,000 or even less. So we're not sure whether that's attributable to us billing electronically. And in that event that it is, we are going to be for the 2024 assessments, both mailing invoices and emailing emailing. So you'll have it both ways. So hopefully we will reach a lot more property owners. It will give you your beginning balance. So just be watching for that. And finally, we hired a new controller, which is super exciting. Holly Sanders started with us last week. She is a native New Yorker who came down here to enjoy our paradise with us, and we're all very happy that she's here. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. If anybody have any questions.
Any questions on the finance? Larry?
Victoria, with the amount of outstanding on the assessments, I obviously the rental registration is a new, but with the assessments, what are we doing to further enforce the importance of that to those who haven't paid?
Well, there'll be late fees and interest charges, and our feeling was that we'll get through this assessment collection, and then we will, as of spring of next year, we will start placing liens on these delinquent properties.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, Victoria, if you place a lien on a property, do you also eliminate their ability for guest pass?
Absolutely, and that includes rental passes. If they are renting their home, that R code will no longer work.
Well, that
Tends
should.
to
that should
get their
motivate.
attention, yes, yes.
Victoria, on the rental registration process, what are the top three challenges have you had, and what are the top three learnings have we had as we've implemented a new complicated program like this?
Well, I think that the big learning that we learned, Jim, was there was a lot of properties that had R codes associated with them, and that's done through our welcome center, and they're the ones that issue the short-term rental passes. I believe several hundred properties continue to have active R codes, but yet they're not, either they sold their home or they're no longer renting their property and they did not notify the welcome center. So we've had about 85 of those that we've written off since the beginning. And then you'll see for the budget, which I'll mention, we did drop that number down revenue-wise by about 150,000. So, and a lot of this is the staff is getting a lot of calls. What is this? And what is it for? And what am I getting for this? So it's just a process again of communicating what it is, why, where it came from, why it's necessary. We are getting a lot of questions. I only rent my home for 3 weeks out of the year, but yet I'm paying the same amount as someone who's renting 52 weeks out of the year, that it should be based on revenue. As you all are aware, we are not privy to your revenue numbers. The town of Hilton Head is as a governmental municipality, but we are not entitled to your financial records. So that is kind of explaining that has been a challenge for the staff. Does that help, Jim? Thank you.
Anybody else? Any more questions to Victoria? Okay, Victoria, we'll move on to the next item, which is operations and special projects. David Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to provide you with several updates related to the Sea Pines Forest Preserve. This past Friday, the Forest Preserve hosted its 12th annual bonfire event. It was once again sold out. And I just wanted to quickly acknowledge the sponsors of the event that frankly make it possible. Atlantic Asphalt, Tree Wiseman, Lawton Stables, the Heritage Classic Foundation, Arbor Nature, the Sea Pines Resort, and the Salty Dog. The Salty Dog once again graciously donated all of the spectacular food offerings and all of the incredible service for the event. So we wanted to give Bob and the Salty Dog a shout out for doing that. New Forest Preserve shirts are available at CSA. Short sleeve shirts are $20 and long sleeve are $25. All proceeds from the shirts do benefit the Sea Pines Forest Preserve Land Management Program. So next time you're by the office, take a look. It's a great gift idea as we come into the holidays. So please take a look at that when you can. The Forest Preserve Foundation recently made application to the town of Hilton Head's accommodations tax program for 2024. If successful, the grant will allow us to create some new interpretive signage for the Forest Preserve. The foundation last applied successfully to a tax in 2022, and this was for shell ring signage that was being developed based on all the latest and greatest information that came from the archaeological work that Binghamton University did in 2015 through 2019. Those signs were installed earlier this year. They each have a QR code that link to a supporting video hosted by the archaeologist, Dr. Matt Singer. So when you have an opportunity, you're out in the Forest Preserve, you're at Fish Island, it's a very short walk to the shell ring, which is almost 4,800 years old, about the age of the Great Pyramids. So when you're out there, please take a look. We're very proud of that signage that was made possible by the town ATAX program. Our annual solicitation letter has been mailed. You should have received it by now. If you haven't, please stop by CSA, or if you prefer, you can go to seapinesforestpreserve.org if you would like to use a credit card to make a contribution. We do rely heavily on the support of others and appreciate any consideration that you can give us. And from seapinesforestpreserve.org, it will link you to our PayPal portal. The Forest Preserve continues to host monthly bird walks. These are done in the spring, the fall, and the winter. We do take a break for the summertime. They sell out almost immediately as soon as they are announced. November's was announced last week and quickly sold out. If you are interested, the next bird walk will be December 22nd. That will come out in the community email on December 7th. So if you are interested in participating in this bird walk, look for that December 7th community email, and don't dither, because it's literally selling out within an hour or two. So we'd encourage you to keep an eye out for that. Lastly, I'd like to announce that phase 1 work for a new 1.8 mile bike friendly trail has begun in the Forest Preserve. The phase 1 work is expected to be completed next year, when additional asphalt millings become available from Russell's project that he referenced earlier. I would like to point out that this project is made possible by support from the Sea Pines Resort's overnight stay program. This program contributes over $100,000 annually to the Sea Pines Forest Preserve. Mr. Chair, that completes my report. Be happy to take any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for David? Well, let me add, David, I was so intrigued by the shirts that I actually bought those as stocking stuffers for grandchildren and our children the other day. They're very nice looking t-shirts. And they feel very comfortable too. I already started wearing mine. So thank you. All right, we'll go to Joe on safety, security, and transportation.
Morning. Can everybody hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Just going to go over a few things. First, I'll bring you up to date on our staffing levels. We have 25 allotted patrol or armed positions, and currently we're down to only needing to fill 4 of those full-time positions. The hiring process continues. We're very hard at that to get these positions filled for the added security. But we've had a good few weeks with that, so that's promising. The gates currently with 2 that we have in the current hiring process, we're full, which will allow take them a while to train up, but we're full in that location. And also dispatch. I think the last time we spoke, we were down. We were able to hire another full-time dispatcher that's currently in training. And we're going to continue to probably advertise. We need to fill 2 more full-time positions in dispatch, but we're getting by with some part-time help right now. A few of the end of the year stats I'd like to just throw out to you. Some of the things I like to bring to your attention would be what I consider statutory crimes. These are reports that have been written over the year. This is since January 1 through the end of October. These are ones that would violate South Carolina criminal code versus, covenant violations, rules, regulations within Sea Pines. There was only a total of 59 of those reports filed. And the good news there is that a full 68% of those 59 were either petty larcenies or some type of domestic disturbance, which means the rest of the crime reports, the more serious stuff, was all in single digits, which to me is very impressive. Speaks a lot to the safety within Sea Pines. Some of the traffic related incident numbers we've had, we've issued 160 citations and 315 warning citations, which is about a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 warnings per every citation, which is a good ratio. I like that ratio. And we've had 53 motor vehicle accident reports for the year. Briefly touch on the gates. We've had 512 gate runners this year. We've had 61,316 gate turnarounds. That's for the year. That's through October.
61,000, everybody.
Yeah.
And every one of those adds 30 seconds to the gate experience.
That's correct. And I bring that number up because it is a lot. I think the last time that we met as with the board of directors meeting. I was working with our IT on getting with Google and then Apple. Those have been implemented. Now Google takes everybody to the right-hand lane, and so does Apple. So it quits diverting them into the property owner's lane, and that does two things. One, it's better flow for the property owners and people that come through that lane. The turnarounds are decreased there significantly. I've been talking to the gate guards, and they said they noticed immediate improvement. Now it's also helps with increased safety, so they don't have to cut across two lanes of traffic, and most of them are being diverted in the right-hand lane. Now that doesn't necessarily going to decrease the overall turnarounds, but it is good, but it's shifting it significantly away from the property owner's lane, which should be appreciated. Yes, Steve.
So what's the main reason for the 61,000 turnarounds?
My opinion on that, or some of the just viewing, I think it's signage issues coming into Sea Pines. Some of it, it's just we don't have a lot of room for there's not a lot of room for signage coming down Greenwood into Sea Pines, and there's a lot of signage. But I think when we have shopping centers to the right and shopping centers to the left, and we have all these left turns and whatnot, I think people get in there and they just get kind of trapped.
So it's 60,000 people that didn't mean to come to Sea Pines.
Well, 60,000 people didn't either mean to come to Sea Pines or decided they didn't want to pay $9 and come to Sea Pines. But yes, that's correct. So I think that it has a lot to do with the approach in the Sea Pines. That's my opinion coming from out. I've been here 3 months, and I come down there every day and really try to give it a look. And I think that has something to do with it.
I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the turnarounds would be related to guests coming in and they have a gate pass at the Welcome Center. They get confused. Instead of going to the Welcome Center, they come to the gate, thinking then to get their guest clearance pass there, they have to get turned around and then filtered back through the Welcome Center.
I agree. I agree with that also. It's not just one thing. That's
right.
It's a kind of a confusing signage problem we have out there. And I don't know what the answer is to be, except continue to explore what we might want to do. And obviously, as Mr. Chairman brought up at the beginning, there's this Greenwood Drive task force that's going on. So I don't know how that will tie into that. And we have to incorporate signage and gates that are going to go into that's a bigger project. But what I'm trying to do now is try to do the best with what we've got currently. Okay. Also, real quickly, I want to touch on some things with e-bikes. We continue our comprehensive approach towards e-bikes. I've been working with Hilton Head Public Safety in the town to push out to our stance on e-bikes within Sea Pines. I think Steve Birdwell mentioned in one of the other committee meetings is we're working on right now a list of some of the primary vendors that rent bikes and come into Sea Pines, constructing a letter to those places to remind them of our policy of no e-bikes allowed in Sea Pines, to hit that off at that location. Myself and Jared, Sam has tasked us with working on signage and cameras with e-bikes. I went down there the other day. We were looking at from the beach and coming into the beach walks from the beach side. And we have a pretty good idea of how we want to approach, where we want to place some cameras, where we want to put signage, and what kind of signage we want to put up. As far as signage goes at every one of those walks that we're responsible for, to help it, because it seems that most of them, that's where they're coming from. So we want to work on that. But Jared Mays and I have been tasked by Sam to do that, and we're working on it heavily.
Bill, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As it relates to e-bikes, are you or is your team approaching
current users of these electric bikes? And how is your approach received when you tell them that they aren't legal in sea pines?
Sure, that's a great question, Bill. And that was going to be on to my next area. What we're trying to do is educate the officers, first of all, at the gates, to recognize them as best they can. Now, if they're on a vehicle, the gate officers are trying to remind them, say, you have an e-bike coming in, but you can't ride it in sea pines. That's one. And then the other part of that is our officers we've pushed it out to them to keep a watch for or respond to any calls that we get. Thus far, we're really using a soft approach. We try to get them in areas maybe where they're riding, especially if they're on the trails, to where you don't make we have blue lights flashing all over the place and whatnot, but it's a soft approach. And thus far, we've had 100% compliance. What we're telling them and reminding them, of course, most people that come in currently, especially if they come off the beach, they're going to say, oh, I didn't see a sign, or they may whatever. So what we're doing is turning them around, reminding them or telling them of it, and then sending them on their way. If they're staying, on property, we have them take it back to their property. If they're off property, we turn them around and escort them off property. But it's been 100% compliance so far, which is good. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. We have 39 property owners listed thus far that have medical exemptions for that. It's a little red medical exemption placed on the property owner's card, and we're still working on potential for decals for their e-bikes. And I believe that catches me up on what I wanted to present today. If anybody's got any questions.
Any questions for Joe? It's a very good report.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll go to the next one. We're back talking about money, financial statements, year end.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go through. These are for the quarter ended September 30th of this year. I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to start with the balance sheet. You'll notice that we have a significant amount of cash as of September 30th. We are going to be drawing that down this month and next month, especially with all that construction going on, and a lot of those heavy invoices are going to be coming through. You'll see down in the liabilities, there's over $300,000 that we have held for retainage. That's due to all that construction that's going on in South Sea Pines. We do hold back 10% of any construction until the engineer tells us that everything has been finalized and is up to his standards. And finally, in the fund balance, you'll notice that there's 2.8 million still in the critical infrastructure improvement fund balance. It all ties together that I expect that number to get close to zero by year end as we spend the money, as those invoices come through. Your next statement is just a statement showing the changes in the fund balance. I'm not going to talk about that. You can look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory. The next is the income statement, which compares the actual to the budget, and then it compares the actual to this time last year. You'll see something that we didn't have last year is that critical infrastructure assessment. We almost 4.3 this year. Then you'll see that gate number is up. It's up over budget as well as last year. As you are aware, we did increase the commercial daily fees, and that's attributable, but we increased it after the budget passed this time last year. So that's why you see that increase over budget. And you'll see that increase in the annual permit over last year as well as over the budget. And I'm attributing that to the increase in the daily fee that a lot of these vendors, these commercial vendors said, well, it's actually cheaper for me to buy an annual decal versus paying $15 a day up from $10. For the expenditures, I did put a note right on the face of the financial statements that would explain any variances. And the biggest variance is under major repairs and replacements. The budget is just over 6 million, but we've only spent 3.5, as I mentioned now. I do expect that number to go up for the end of the year. And it's nice that our change in market value of investments is just a loss of 18,000, which is extremely good because this time last year it was a loss of 584,000. And your next two statements are the details of all the projects going on and where we are versus the annual budget. You'll notice in blue, those are the projects that are being funded through that critical infrastructure fund. Does anyone have any questions about the September financials?
And not seeing any. Okay,
I do need a motion to
okay.
accept them.
So I'll make a motion for the CPINES CSA Board of Directors as recommended by the Finance Committee to accept the financial statements for the year to date, September 30th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the assessment.
Okay, now we're moving into the 2024 budget. As you know, the residential assessment is based on CPI, and that's you compare it year over year. I checked this morning, and the October CPI is not available yet, so we're going to use the one from September, which gets us an increase of 3.7% over last year. So that would indicate that the residential property owner annual assessment on an improved lot goes from 1,887 to 1,957. 671 of that is attributable to the critical infrastructure. And on an unimproved lot, which are less than 100 now left, it goes from 1,127 to 1,169, and $402 of that represents the critical infrastructure portion. So did you want to touch on CPI or do you want to leave it alone?
I think the challenge we've had is that the October CPI, it comes out, but it's usually right around the board meeting. I think given the struggle we've had with that, we may end up going September to September. You know, just we're getting 11 months comparison this year. I think we'll just shift to September so we don't have that open-ended issue.
I don't anticipate it being a significant change over September, so I will need a motion to accept that.
So I'll make a motion that the CPINES Community Service Associates Board of Directors, as recommended by the Finance Committee, approves an increase over the 2023 assessment, bringing the 2024 residential property owners annual assessment on an improved lot from 1887 to 1957. 671 represents the critical infrastructure portion of the assessment, and the 2024 residential property owners annual assessment on an unimproved lot from 1,127 to 1,169, 402 of which represents the critical infrastructure portion of the assessment.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And you've got.
Yeah, I'm going to take over on the budget for 2024, and I echo what Victoria said regarding the staff, not only in the finance area, but throughout the organization in creating the budget. It's months of work and detailed discussions and culminating with Victoria and Sam bringing the budget to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee met twice, once as a workshop and once as a formal meeting. and recommended to the executive committee for approval of the budget, and then subsequently the executive committee recommends it to the full board. So let me just hit some highlights. We've hit the point of $21 million worth of operating revenues and expenses. And as you heard from Victoria, the sources of revenue on many of those line items that make up the revenues are limited by CPI. So we're stuck with that 3.7%. I shouldn't say stuck, but we're limited by that 3.7% increase. The gate entry fees are expected to remain relatively flat after that increase that you saw in 2023 over 2022. The second year, our rental registration revenue, as Victoria also already mentioned, we've taken that down to about 1.1 million, knowing that we're still working through some of the kinks and the validity of some of the folks billed, and we wanted to be conservative in that manner. On the expense side, the $21 million of operating expenses are largely driven, or the increases are largely driven by the increases in salaries. We also had a 10.6% increase in the health insurance premium, and that was after negotiation with the provider and working through employee shares and deductibles and all the levers that you need to work on to try and keep those increases relatively minimal. The general liability D&O and property insurance has gone up, 36% year over year. That's roughly using the total numbers. That's a significant part of the increase in the operating expenses and represents the significance of trying to actually get insurance for a property like, the properties that CSA holds. And knowing that we already renewed, we shifted our renewal to November 1st, so we could be ahead of the market, get out there, get our numbers solidified as we develop the budget. So those numbers, the 1.2 million or so, represents a good hard number on the premium side. The other major piece of the expenses is major repairs and replacements. And you've heard from many folks on this at this meeting that are driven by the major projects. And in 2024, there's going to be continued work on South Sea Pines Drive, the Harbor Town roadways, and then various leisure trails. And to be specific, 4.1 million of the major repairs and replacements will be funded by the Critical Infrastructure Fund and about 1.9 from the operating fund. Those are key important pieces that we looked very hard at regarding the budgeting of those, what progress had been made through 2023, what we expect to happen in the fourth quarter, and then what management expects they can execute during 2024. It's a big agenda, a lot of big dollars out there, and we're monitoring those costs very closely. A lot of folks are very interested in the monitoring of those and how we're managing those. And I'll tell you specifically, we are very focused on the allocation of costs between the operating budget and the Critical Infrastructure Fund, and have a methodology that is being put in place for consistency purposes, and we stand behind that. So I think that's the highlights that I like to mention. Are there any questions?
I find it amazing that our premium for our insurance has gone up 50%, close to 50, from 800 to 1.2. And I'm just making a comment. I'm not.
No, it's 36% when you do the exact numbers, and that's
okay.
That's after pushing and pulling, on that negotiation too. I don't know if you want to mention anything.
Can you tell me, you mentioned D&O as part of that, was that up also as much as liability?
Yes, without going into a lot of details, we do have some claims in our history, and these carriers are looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah. And property insurance is, I feel it at my house, it's gone up. Yeah. I was shocked at the wind and hail. That went up significantly. In fact, it wasn't until the last minute that we even had wind and hail coverage, because nobody wanted to nobody's wanting to touch these coastal towns. But we were able to secure it. We had to go through 2 carriers, didn't we, Sam?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we had to get the amount of coverage that we needed.
Well, I think the insurance industry, I mean, it's just, I can't get my arms around it, you know where I live. And they took me out of the flood, I'm not in a floodplain.
Excuse me?
I mean, took me, my designation out of being in a floodplain. And I'm, 150 feet from the water. Or that.
Well, I'm out of the floodplain after the new thing. My carrier canceled most of its coverage most people had. My policy, which is homeowners and flood, excess flood, not homeowners, wind and hail, was up 30%. So it's something that everybody's experiencing, not just CSA.
And every other community.
Any other coastal community, the Southeast, it's all.
We did increase our DNO, what was it?
A couple of years ago.
2 or 3 years ago.
About
I mean, we doubled the amount of coverage for the directors and officers. Just because of the litigious society. When Sam first got here, we had 13 open lawsuits. We're now down to 2. So let's keep it that way.
Okay, now you mentioned something that is gonna break, I'm gonna say, but I don't wanna,
Let's
I
leave.
didn't
I
mean.
don't wanna jinx it. And I don't wanna use that word. We have not had a new lawsuit this year. And so I may be jinxing it, but she halfway said it and I can't resist it, so, but just wait till tomorrow, huh?
Right.
All right. Any questions? Comments? Well, you need a approval.
I'll make a motion for the Community Service Associates Board of Directors, Sea Pines Community Service Associates Board of Directors to approve the 2024 budget as recommended by the Finance Committee as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back on to. Where is the next item? I'm gonna take it here. Unfinished business?
Yeah, no unfinished business.
I'm gonna probably, can bring it up here. At this stage, I'd like to call on, Tom Sharp and Clifton, I can give a report on the Greenwood Drive Task Force. Are y'all prepared to do that?
Yes, we are. Thank you, David. Just a little background, I think David's explained how the Greenwood Task Force came around, but our objective, let me say, we formed because really no one is working on a long-term permanent solution. And I think those are important words, and that means 10 to 15 years. So it's no one's working on solving our congestion and safety problem on the entrance to our plantation. So we have decided to form this group to focus on that and take the leadership in providing a solution. So our deliverable then will be to provide, we're going to resolve the congestion and safety problems on a permanent basis. We've agreed on the task force that we're going to do this or have a proposal in place by 1 October of next year. So about 12 months. And this would be a design and the cost of that design presented to our board for review. That is pretty aggressive, quite honestly. But again, it's not the solution. We won't be moving dirt. We will have finalized a design and a solution, an engineering and financial solution, and then proceed with implementation if that is approved. We've decided to break the task force into 2 working groups because there are 2 different areas. One is the gate and the movement of flow of traffic through the gate. The other area is the flow of traffic on Greenwood Drive into Sea Pine Circle
or from Sea Pine Circle. So those are distinct areas that will have different parameters, different problems, and different solutions. And in doing so, then Cliff has offered to take the gate area, and I'm going to lead a group in the Greenwood Drive area and the Sea Pines Circle. That way, if we're working in smaller groups, more focused, we can move a little faster in working some viable solutions and options and get some agreement on those. So I'm going to have Cliff, if you would please talk about the gate group first, and then I'll come back and talk about Sea Pines and the Circle and the Greenwood Drive.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Yeah, the gate working group is really focused on the gate itself, and really looking at ways to expedite the flow. How to expedite pass sales. We're looking at improvements to the age facilities that we operate from, and then just how do we improve the overall experience for all stakeholders. And as we heard from Joe Counts earlier, there really isn't just like one problem and one solution for our issues at the gate. So this group will start by breaking down stakeholders. We'll look at property owners, their guests, and their service providers. We'll look at the resort and commercial guests and their vendors. And then we'll look at CSA staff and their needs, and how do they and then the daily pass sales and just overall pass management. And the real first step for all of us is to begin to gather data. We've all got a lot of opinions. I know we all see it every day and search for solutions in our heads, but I think we're going to need to get some help in analyzing data specific to each one of these stakeholders. We thought we'd start by getting fully up to speed on what CSA 360 is offering currently. They're in they're in that realm, and so we're going to learn from them what their abilities are, and whether or not they'll be the ultimate consultant to help us gather this data and break it down and analyze it is undetermined, but that's a good place to start. As Tom may talk about in a little bit, engaging a traffic engineer that would be specific to the Greenwood Drive, maybe we end up, coordinating on a consultant and end up with a common work effort there. We know we're going to want someone that is familiar with SEDOT and, has the ability to, break this data down for us. Some possibilities, we want to focus on pass sales. We've talked about the ability to move to like a cashless payment option, as one idea that we'll study. We're going to work with this consultant to reevaluate our lanes. Do we have enough lanes? Are they in the right configuration? Again, looking at the facilities. These are some aged, and there are better ways to manage those assets, and then studying case studies. We'll look at where situations are similar, all over the country, and look for their problems and solutions that might benefit us. And then, as we get through this, all of the study of the data and the analysis, dovetailing that back into Tom's work group, integrate with the Greenwood Drive group is kind of the next step. And as he mentioned, October 1st, 24, being our target. So that's really the brief summary of the GATE working group.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Then, as Cliff mentioned, we'll have to tie this all together. So we are bringing on a national engineering firm. As obviously, oftentimes, I think Cliff said it quite well, we need to start with some data. Transportation is typically engineering and finance. While we all feel we're experts because we use those facilities, we need to have a proper consultant, traffic engineering firm. So we're going ahead and soliciting a firm Sam has started out with a base of SCDOT, has recommended 4 firms that we will look at and interview. I think this is quite interesting for perhaps you general public doesn't realize that CSI has the accountability for Greenwood Drive to Sea Pine Circle. Sea Pine Circle is a state highway. Inside of Sea Pine Circle is the accountability of the Forest Preserve. So there are a lot of entities involved here, as there typically are on traffic engineering projects. So we need to work through those. But back to the fact that we want a permanent solution, we'll bring in a consulting engineering firm. And basically issues I think that we can see as we have a safety issue on Greenwood Drive. We have a lot of cuts. We have a lot of traffic going back and forth, maybe even a U-turn now and then right on Greenwood Avenue. So you would like to minimize the amount of cuts and traffic crossing. That's where your accidents typically happen. So that's one aspect we'll look at to eliminate that with a consultant engineering firm. And then the second issue will be congestion, and that is really allowing us to get into Sea Pine Circle and the capacity of the circle. Long term, we're talking 10 to 15 years. Sea Pine Circle will have to take more capacity as more traffic is moving to the south end of the island. Sea Pine Circle tends to be a toll gate on all the traffic that moves to the Cligney and south end of the island. So over time, that capacity will have to be increased with some engineering technology. So we will, at the present time, it's our understanding the town is doing some work and has taken the accountability to do some design work on the circle. So we'll be working with the town and I think eventually with the state, since it's a state-owned highway, there will obviously be some interaction. In terms of the process, we will bring on a traffic engineering firm and present some preliminary design ideas, which we have. And I want to give Don Sigmund some credit for that. He's been thinking this out and doing some work. So he's given us a base of some work and that we'll present and get fine-tuned, if you will, by an engineering firm. In that process, once we have somewhat of a design, we'll start to look at who owns the land on either side, what kind of easements do we have, what right-of-ways are in place, what agreements do we have, what land might have to be acquired. We'll have to then see how the Greenwood Drive design will interchange with the Sea Pines Circle new design. And then also be concerned, I think, as Joe mentioned, we have 2 commercial entities on either side of Greenwood Drive that have needs and desires that we'll have to integrate into a final design. So there's an awful lot of work, a lot of parties at play here. But again, I'll basically go back to where we need to be is I firmly believe that we need to take the leadership and drive this process. From what we can tell, there really has been no major champion, if you will, of solving this problem long term. We've probably all nibbled at it on the edges, whether it was CSA or the town or commercial entities, but there's really been no, let's say, official process focused to resolve this long term. And that's really what our task force is all about. And obviously, David mentioned communication and the help that we're going to need from residents. I'd like to believe this is a common mutual problem or effort for all the residents of Sea Pines Plantation. It's one that we can rally around as a unified group and put some emphasis. I can tell you now in terms of how the town is looking at transportation problems in their analysis of 278 corridor on island and 278, Gateway 278 project, Sea Pine Circle is in a third position of priority. And why is that important? Well, at the end of the day, all transportation is based on available funding. And if you're a lower priority, you may not have access to available funding. So quite honestly, a big part of our process is to bring the Sea Pine Circle congestion into the future, into the limelight, and increase its priority in the towns and states funding discussions. So I appreciate all the help we'll get from all of our residents through our website and people that are willing to come and speak and help us carry this message as a unified group. So thank you very much, and we look forward to a lot of work. And actually, I think it'll be exciting to have a new drive design and a new gate design. So that's it, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Cliff, any questions or comments? That was a lot of information. Okay, if there's nothing else there, I'll move to new business. I have appointed Larry Mufton as chair of the Sea Pine CSA Officer Nominating Committee. He will, as chair, populate that committee. That committee will be the committee that nominates the officers for next year. And that's usually completed sometime, I think, in December. And so, Larry, I appreciate you, staying on and handling that. We have a community standards policy amendment. I'm going to ask Jared to help speak on this, but one thing I do want to point out to all those people who write me about noise, this now has it in there to one aspect of the amendment that effective January 1, 2026 with a maximum of 65 dBA or less. So just so you know, that's in there. But Jared, go over whatever you think the pertinent parts are of the amendment.
Sure. Again, I'll just keep it brief. But some of the updates to the current community standards policy were led by the task force through the Sims committee. The task force worked diligently along staff to review and recommend changes to the current community standards rules and regulations policy. After looking through the document, there were just minor adjustments made. Mainly they were just housekeeping changes. Also, all the updates have been reviewed by legal, and major recommended changes to the policy are basically changing the wording from land use management to community standards throughout the policy. As Mr. Ellis mentioned, the blower noise levels are going to be a maximum of 65 decibels, and that will be effective January 1st of 2026. Another higher level change was temporary storage of bicycles in public view is permitted if they are stored neatly and as far from the road as possible year round. And short-term renters and guests of short-term renters are only permitted to park vehicles in the garage, carport, or in the driveway of the rental property. Parking is not permitted on landscape surfaces, including front, back, and side yards. And we'd also like for the changes to take effect January 1st of 24. And that was the majority of all the changes in the policy.
Greg, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, thank you, David. I think it was a successful effort by the committee, and appreciate Jared and Amanda both helping to keep us on track and report accurately. So thanks very much to them.
Any questions? Would you want to make the motion to approve the amendment to the community standards policy, Greg? If not, you can't get your mute on.
Sorry, David, can you do that? I don't have that up
okay.
on my screen, so if you do it,
it.
I'd appreciate it.
I thought it
Thanks.
was going to come from you. It's the approval of the amendment of the Sea Pine CSA Community Standards Policy, November 14, 2024, is that 23?
23, yes, okay.
23. Will you move that?
He's moved it.
Okay,
I'll second it.
second, all right? All in favor, raise your hands. Assuming no discussion. Okay, the last item on the agenda we ratify something we've already approved. And this is the text amendment to the land management ordinance of the town of Sea Pine Circle. And this was authority that the board gave, and it's resolved that Sea Pines Community Service Association, Inc., Board of Directors ratifies approval to authorize David Ellis, Chair, and Sam Bennett, President, work with the members of the Town Council and staff to limit the number of properties in the Sea Pine Circle District that may be developed as island or mixed use, while allowing the project proposed by Double D Partnership to move forward as proposed, and to seek to qualify the definition of educational use in the proposed text amendment to those educational uses which are state-owned or provide secondary post-12th grade educational uses. That little explanation for those who in the public. At this point in time, the council had already forwarded and approved by a vote of 4-3 to send this back to planning to make some amendments or suggestions, or to approve theirs, including in the 4 people who voted for it happened to be our representative from Sea Pines community. A number of us spent a great deal of time with him, trying to stress on him the importance of this to our community, to the traffic and safety problems. Only thing we were left with was the possibility of trying to limit it to this one project and not have it go district-wide. Our concern was this project, but it's not so much the project as if it would go district-wide and other entities took advantage of this. The density and the traffic would substantially increase, and there had been no studies done by city planning on this. My very first statement to Town Hall when it came out was I asked them to delay it until that planning could be done, or if they would not going to do that planning, to vote against it. But as you know, it was voted that way. Those 4 people remain constant in their desire to approve it. CSA did everything it could do in representing what we thought was a community, a majority of the interest in the community, in recognition of the severity of the traffic problem that we have. And during the course of this, you will have read in the newspaper that the town additionally bought, I think it's Wild Wings property, at which they indicated the use might turn out to be additional parking for Caligny, which even throws additional people down through the circle in this area. So that, when we saw all of this taking place, we realized that we were far outside of the political arena and nobody was going to be really looking out after us. So that's one of the major emphasis in having this task force, so that we'll be out in front of it and we will try to catch people's attention before they get too far down the road, and actually make, be a part of the tip of the iceberg that stirs up things to get it done, instead of letting it happen on us and us try to resist what we did. No comment about this is not a comment about the project, but what was very interesting, and the reason the speaker forces is that at every meeting I attended, there were a tremendous number of citizens who spoke for this project. They were from Indigo Run, they were from Hilton Head Plantation, they were from Palmetto Dunes. They were all over the island. And there were a couple of people from Sea Pines, and then there were a couple of people from Sea Pines that spoke against it. But these people from the other end of the island spoke incessantly about it. And it reminded me of my days in the political world, where that seems to catch the attention of the people who vote. And so that's part of the reason we want the speakers program. But that's what this resolution is just being ratified, because this is the authority which the board gave us to proceed to take whatever action we could. But I wanted to explain it a little further, because I've had a number of people who have contacted me and saying that CSA, didn't have any objection to, any of this. And so and they confuse the objection, having no objection to the project, because we'd lost that deal already. We had an objection to the text amendment to the ordinance, which brought so much more in. I wanted that explanation. You don't need that, but I want to make sure the public has that explanation. So I will move that we ratify the approval of that resolution that we'd already electronically adopted. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. None opposed. Okay. And at that, we are at the end of the meeting. Before we adjourn and go and see if we have any questions, if any of you have any comments you want to make?
David, I think if I'm not mistaken, this may be the end of a 6-year reign of terror by Mr. Bill Johnson. And I think this is his last meeting, and I thought that might be worth noting.
Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. And thank you. We're going to hold that for a special ceremony next year, but you definitely thank you. Can't thank a person too much for working 6 years on this. I think we also got Charlie Monty. This is the end of your 9th year? Okay, so we had that. So we have some dedicated workers, that's for sure.
And Greg Thompson also, I believe, is at the end of the term.
Yes, Greg Thompson is be going too, and you've all done great work, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stephanie, do we have any questions?
Hi, David. We do have one question that was submitted by Alex Cruden.
Okay.
Alex is asking about when will these 2 items be available for property owners to view on seapinesliving.com, and those are the CSA 2024 budget and the amendments to the community standards.
Should be by Friday.
By Friday.
Yes.
And that's the only question?
And that is the only question that came in for you all today.
Oh, goodness. I was hoping to be able to talk a lot longer. All right, meeting stands adjourned.